My daughter Adriana and I walked the Camino de Santiago, and we got it back about a month ago. And I promised I would tell you what worked for me in terms of equipment and what didn't work. So I'm going to start with my duffel bag. I opted to check my my backpack into a duffel bag so that I could treat it as a suitcase. And so we went to Amazon and got a duffel bag, and that worked out, except when we got to Paris and then again in Santiago, we found it didn't have rollers, and it was very heavy and awkward to carry it at the airport, and realized that I needed to get one with wheels, or what Adriana had recommended, my backpack might have fit in a big suitcase that I have at home that had wheels. So I liked checking it. By the time I got to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, I had an express service that shipped my suitcase and my travel clothes and a few extra clothes we took for after a Santiago trip, and they shipped that to Santiago and had it waiting for me, so I didn't have to carry it all the way through the 500 miles. So that worked out really well. And I'll put all this on my website, and I'll list all the name brands I used so that if I miss something, you'll see it there. So anyway, I did like checking my bag and not carrying it with me. With backpack. And we got Osprey, and I think it's in the Kites or Keter series. Mine was a 36 liter, and Adriana had a 46 liter. If I had it to do again, I would buy the 46 liter as well. I would pack as if I was using a 36 liter, but then I would have put it in a bigger backpack. It made her packing easier, and plus it had some outside pockets that mine didn't have. A 46 liter would have been what I'd recommend. Also, I have a camera that's a GoPro, and I'm using it now, so I can't show you, but I wore it hooked to my backpack. This broke, but it would sit right in there, and I could push it whenever I wanted to tape. So that worked out really well, and used my cell phone and download it. The backpack was 17 pounds is the weight I ended up going with, and I weighed 109. 17 pounds wasn't a problem. I wish I took a few other things that I didn't take, like supplements and stuff like that, because I was worried about the weight. So in the back, I'd recommend bringing a few baggies. This is where we kept our passports, the compass style, the passport for the pilgrims, so that we could get into all the albergues, and our little book of maps, so that we could keep from getting lost. That's where I kept my sunscreen, so I could put it on at regular intervals through the day. Open this up. As far as shoes, I brought 3 pair. At night, I'd slip on these Skechers because we were there from end of September through early November. And so we went out, and it got pretty cool at night, and you want to take off the boots. So I bought these Skechers. Didn't bring flip-flops. I thought the Skechers would work for the shower, but they didn't. So I bought these when I was there for maybe 7-8 euros. And I was able to wear my socks in them because you're not allowed to wear your boots at the albergues. So those I used every day. The boots I ended up going with are Merrell hiking boots, I guess. They're not the high ones. They're a shorter one. I already had them. I stretched them a little bit with the foot stretcher I had at home because there were a couple places that rubbed on my toes, and they worked great. I got 2 tiny blisters, which I ended up taping, and I never had any problems. Adriana used what they called a trail shoe, a trail running shoe, which had a thicker sole than normal shoes, a little more bottom sole support. Again, and hers were low tops, and she had no problem. Also took walking sticks. I ended up calling them Lumen Fred, and they're collapsible, hooked to the outside of my backpack, and they were a godsend. There are many places where, from a balance standpoint, or going up or downhill, they really saved me from twisting my ankle. Late on the Camino, I twisted I kind of pulled ligaments in my ankle, and then I got to use them as a crutch. But again, unless you're in great shape, I would recommend taking walking sticks. Adriana bought some cheap ones on Amazon for $30, something like that. and they worked fine for her. She didn't use them every day like I did, but again, most of the people there, and again, if you weren't great physical shape, they really came in handy. You need a hat. I had a hat I was bringing from the Bobby Bones show, which was Pimpin' Joy, and but you need a hat for the rain. We had rain 4 or 5 days, or for the sun. A brim hat of some kind. I'd probably say if you don't have a hat, then get one with a brim all the way around, because we're going west most of the time and the left side really got more sun than any other part of you. For water, I just chose to buy water there in a bottle, and I had to carry 2 bottles and filled them up at the albergues. Never used a filter of any kind because I just used them from the faucet in the albergues. And so that worked out fine. Little things I brought that I put in the outside pockets of my backpack. One was a little notepad in case you wanted to write down anyone's email or their names, keep track of people you're meeting, and a pen. You rarely find soap anywhere, so sanitizers were a good idea. You need maybe a few of these, because again, rarely did you find soap any place during the day. Throat lozenges. I twisted my ankle at one point. Ibuprofen, and you can buy it there, and it's actually really, really cheap. They sell it at 200, 400, and 600, I think, milligrams. Someone mentioned 800, but I didn't find those. I took 600 for my ankle, and you bought like 50 capsules for under $2. So it's a really, really good buy. Chapstick, used it all the time for the wind, rain, sun. This is the only flashlight I brought, just a tiny little flashlight, that you could pull it to put it on your head. Looked kind of dorky, but was kind of handy sometimes at the albergues to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, something like that. But again, just a tiny little thing that fit in my pocket. You had to have your adapter for the European adapter. What I'd recommend, many times you got to albergues and there was only one outlet, for every 6 or 7 people. When you go, buy an adapter that splits into 3. It really comes in handy if you're needing to share an outlet. Earplugs, didn't use them every place, but many times if you're in a room with 50 people, the earplugs were really nice. Read the instructions, try them ahead of time, because I found these things didn't work if they weren't put in right, but if I got them in right, they worked well. So. And little things like rubber bands, safety pins, clothespins, that kind of thing, always came in handy. As far as the medicine case I brought, I don't have it in here, but I did buy a little sewing kit that was no more than that big, just had a few threads, a needle in it, and something to thread the needle. I only used it, I got 2 small blisters early on, and I used it to drain the blisters, but took up no room, so I take that. My favorite thing probably on the whole Camino, next to my walking sticks, was Leuco tape. And so I started out putting it on the ball of my feet, around my big toe, on my heel, and then around my heel, because those are places I would typically have blisters if I put a new pair of shoes on. I ended up wrapping around a couple other toes, but again, I only got 2 little blisters in the very beginning on 2 toes that I hadn't wrapped at the time. And when I saw all the people that had blisters, some people had to quit because of their blisters, I was really glad I had the Leuco tape. In fact, at the very end, I was running low and afraid I was going to run out, and we couldn't find it there. And I got to where I was putting baggies on my feet in the shower so that I didn't lose my Leuco tape. So I did bring this Trail Toes. It's kind of like a Vaseline made specifically for feet. And I don't know if it was needed or not, but some people swore by it that were there. So as I was starting to run low on Leuco tape, I just started using it because I had it and I'd been carrying it. So I kept it. I did get Nikin duct tape. It's a brand new product. It's DUK. It's a kinesiology muscle product. So I would put it on the back of my calves or something like that to keep my calves from getting sore. And so that was pretty handy. And a nail clipper. I bring a nail clipper. And then I brought a little multi-purpose knife. The thing I used on it was the scissors. I used the scissors to cut the tape all the time. But it was nice because it was so light and I could just hook it on the outside of my backpack. It had a few other features, but the one I used all the time was the scissors.